Today's tutorial is of this rose headband, which is kind of a small bonnet, because I never really took liking to big bonnets on myself. I thought they looked a bit odd, so I wanted to make this kind of small bonnet. And this is quite easy to make, although it does take time when you have to wait for the hot glue to set and you have to hand sew this in. But other than that, this is quite easy to make, and here is how. I apologize for the lighting, but as it's midnight I don't have any sunlight, but I have the inspiration, so here we go. For this project you will need a headband. This is a very old one that I can't remember where I got it from, but you can use a really basic headband, preferably with fabric on it, so that it's easier to attach things to. It can be as wide or as thin as you want, but the wider it is, the easier it is to add a lot of stuff to it. And you will need flowers. eBay is full of them. I got these from a thrift store, and they came with these kind of pedally thingies that I don't know yet if I'm gonna use or not, but you saw the finished project, so you know more than I do at this point. I'm gonna use some single leaf petals and some lace. I'll tell you later how much you will need, or how much I needed for this project. And some thread and a needle. We won't be using sewing machine today. And if you want, also a hot glue gun. I'm gonna start with gluing the single leaf petals to the bottom of the roses so that they look a bit neater. And I'm gonna need 5 of these because I'm gonna use 5 roses. So I'm gonna glue them on with my hot glue gun. And you want to have something between your glue and your table so that if you mess up, you won't mess up your table, because my table looks awful. So you want to put a bit at the bottom and push the leaf on it. Be careful because the glue is hot, so that it looks like that. And I'm gonna do 5 of these. Once I have my roses done and they have cooled off, I'm gonna glue them on to the headband. If you want, you can also sew them, but I find it easier to glue with these kind of materials. So starting with the middle one, I'm gonna glue it to the middle and quite close to the back, so that from the front it comes a bit over, but I have a bit room in the back to add something to cover up the plastic bit. So I'm gonna put some glue onto the flower. And press it on to the headband as close to the center as I can, and push it down so that it holds. And when it feels secure, I can let go. And then glue on the other ones. And I'm gonna give it enough time for it to really get glued together. This is what the back looks like, and we are gonna cover these up. This is the top and the sides. And remember to unplug your hot glue gun. After you've let the glue set for about 5 or 10 minutes so that it's really hard and cool, next you want to add the lace. And my lace is about a hand wide because my roses are quite big, so that when I sew it to the headband, the lace is a bit longer than my roses, so that you can really see it from behind the roses. And you want to start by folding your lace first in half and then turn the edges. And then we're gonna sew this right next to the flower so that it opens up like so. And then we're going to sew the lace on to the edge while ruffling it as we go, so that it gives the bonnet shape. So I'm gonna start by putting a few stitches to secure the fold in the lace. I'm gonna leave a bit to tie the knot to the end of this. Like so. Now that it's nice and secure, I'm gonna make some knots. Now that I have my knots in place, I'm gonna cut the small end of the thread. And I'm going to start sewing the lace to the headband. And if your lace only has one pretty side like mine, I'm gonna face the pretty side to the roses so that it comes to the front. And the back has the other side. And this is why you want a headband with a fabric top, so that it is easier to sew these on. I'm gonna place it in the middle, right after the roses. And I know, I'm sorry it's a bit hard to see with black fabric and black lace and black thread with bad lighting. But I'm just gonna sew it right on through the fabric. And once you have secured the end, you want to start looking at the back and start sewing the lace to the very back edge. and you want to ruffle it or fold it as you go. This takes a bit of time and patience, but I really don't recommend gluing the lace on because that will make it look quite sloppy. So even though this will take a while and maybe a bit annoying to do, I really recommend that you sew it on by hand. So I'm making small folds as I go and putting stitches on. And this will really help to cover up all these plastic bits which we really don't want anyone to see. And as you're going, you can check how it looks. I'm gonna need a bit more lace. And this is a very handy way to keep your lace so that it doesn't tangle, and I always write how much left I have so that when I'm starting a project I don't have to start measuring, I know already. And this is what it looks like. As you can see, I decided to add 2 more roses, but I didn't film it because it was the same principle. And if you want, you can sew something to the back, but I didn't have any kind of decoration that I wanted to put there, so I didn't. And I'm gonna show you a little detail, because after I was done sewing, I went back and between every rose I made a few stitches so that the lace really goes in between and hugs the roses and doesn't start to droop backwards. And that really helps to keep it in place. I don't know if you can see, I made a stitch there and a stitch there to really get in between the roses. I made the stitches almost halfway to the headband, so that it is really nice and hugs the roses and doesn't flap backwards, because again I don't have anything to sew to the back side of it. This is what it looks like from the bottom. The roses are peeking over a bit because they are much bigger. I chose this week because it really shows the color difference between the headband and the roses and the hair. And this is what it looks like. If you have any questions or request any kind of tutorials or other videos, leave them in the comment box below, and I'll see you again next Wednesday. Bye!